Okay, I know you're bored at home. Don't click off this video and thank me later. Hey, it's Dianel. So a lot of us are spending all of our time at home. We have much more free time than we might usually have. I feel like a lot of people are like wrapping up their school year, or like about to at least in the next month or so. So I feel like a lot of people are not gonna have anything to do at home, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, to help you. So for today's video, I decided to compile a list of movies and TV shows so you can watch them if you find them interesting. That means I have to really do a good job at selling these shows. So let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna start with TV shows just because I feel like that's what people watch the most. So the first TV show I'm gonna talk about is Elite, which I actually have a whole video about. I'm gonna put a card right here to that video if you're interested. That video is a lot more detailed on what the show is about than I'm going to be in this video, since I'm gonna speak about a bunch of other shows. So Elite is about these 3 kids that get a scholarship into this very preppy elite school full of rich kids because like something happens to their school and it like explodes or whatever. So yeah, it's these 3 lower middle class kids who are basically trying to fit into this world that they do not belong in, so they feel very uncomfortable. And then the rich kids hate them because they're like, why are y'all here? There's a lot of conflict and a lot of drama. One of the scholarship kids starts dating one of the rich girls. It's just a whole ordeal. And at the end, because of all the tensions that arise between all these characters, there's a murder at the end of the first season. So basically the entire first season is building up to the murder of one of the students. At the beginning and at the end of each episode, they would like give information from the finale. So like as the show progresses, you get more and more information about what's going to happen. I feel like that's a pretty interesting show, and there's a lot of character development throughout all 3 seasons. And then obviously there's 2 more seasons, but I can't explain the plot of those seasons without spoiling the first season. So yeah, basically show is about murder. It's a murder mystery. It's a teen murder mystery. I've heard it been described as, and I talked about this in my other video, but I heard it described as what Riverdale thinks it is. It's the show that Riverdale wants to be, basically, which I think is a pretty accurate description. It's also a Spanish show. I forgot to mention that, but it is in Spanish. However, you can put it in English. But I recommend watching it in Spanish with English subtitles just because the delivery is much more different, like of lines and like the acting. So yeah, that's Elite. Next show I want to recommend is How to Get Away with Murder. And the reason this show is on my list is because it recently ended. And I was actually gonna make a whole video on How to Get Away with Murder, but I decided not to. And I was just very passionate about how that show ended. And I think it's one of the best finales, in my opinion, of any show I've ever watched. Like, it's very hard to end a show without satisfying the viewers, but I feel like the common consensus and like through tweets I saw, like a lot of people very much enjoyed how the show ended, and all around it was such a good show. So if you don't know what How to Get Away with Murder is, it's basically about these law students that get picked by their professor to be like the Keating 5. The professor is Annalise Keating, and like they're the Keating 5, which means like they basically get to work on her cases. And it's much more than just a show about law students, because the whole premise of the show is murder. It's quite similar to Elite, or I want to say Elite is quite similar to How to Get Away with Murder in the sense that the show essentially spoils what's going to happen, but it doesn't give you the whole story. Okay, so for example, in the first season, someone is killed. So like the first 2-3 minutes of the first episode of this first season, it's the law students like burying a body, and you're like, what the f is going on? So we don't really know anything about what is happening at first, but we do know that like something is going to happen. So basically every single episode of the season is going to build up to that spoiler. It's very interesting. Like honestly, this was the first show. This show came out in 2014, but it was the first show ever that I've seen like with this concept all throughout the seasons, because I've seen Pretty Little Liars do this like in some episodes, but like it was all throughout. The show also has very likable characters. Like I promise you'll fall in love with the characters and you wouldn't want anything to happen to them. Even like the like low-key toxic characters, you just like them. And I don't know, I feel like Annalise Keating, which is the professor of the show, she's such an iconic character, and I feel like everyone knows her, and it's such a good show. Honestly, sometimes it has me thinking that I know about the law, like when they're at court and like arguing for cases. Like I feel like I know what they're talking about, which is not true, but whatever. It's a good show. It's 6 seasons. It just ended, and I believe the 6th season is gonna come out sometime around mid-June on Netflix. So if you liked what I said, make sure to watch the show. Next show is also on Netflix. I feel like most of these shows are on Netflix, but next show is called The Good Place. And I'm not sure if I've talked about this show before, but whatever. So this show is about this woman called Eleanor Shellstrop, and apparently she goes to heaven, or how they call it. They don't call it heaven or hell in this show. They call it The Good Place and The Bad Place. So she ends up in the good place, and then this guy is like telling her, oh, welcome to the good place, la la la. And she's just like, oh yeah, sure, thank you. But in her head, she's very, very confused because it turns out she does not belong in the good place. Like, she was actually a pretty bad person. So she's very confused, but she obviously doesn't want to tell on herself because she doesn't want to go to the bad place. So she just stays there and she just like takes it for what it is. But stuff starts happening in the good place because she's there and she's not supposed to. So she starts like disrupting the order of like the good place because she's there. So like there's like some like glitch in the system, and like all these bad things start happening in the good place because she does not belong there, but she isn't telling anyone. So the other characters of the show, there is her soulmate. So like everyone in the good place has a soulmate. So her soulmate is this guy named Chidi, and he's like a professor, like world peace guy, whatever. So I'm watching this back, and that's not what he is. He's a moral and ethics professor that teaches in Australia. I don't know where world peace guy came. I mean, kind of, but not really. And then they're friends with these other two, I wouldn't say friends, but like they know these other two people, which are Tahani, who is this very, very, passionate, I want to say, to not say, annoying. But it's annoying in a good way because she's honestly one of my favorite characters. But she's like this very pretentious person who is constantly name dropping because she knows all these celebrities, blah, blah, blah. That's her. She did like a lot of charitable work. That's why she's in the good place. And then there's her soulmate. So Tahani's soulmate, who is Jason. And he's basically a monk. He's a silent monk who doesn't talk. Obviously, that's what silent means. But yeah, he doesn't talk. He took like a silence vow. And yeah. So that's basically it. But the show is a lot less black and white that I'm explaining it, but I really don't want to spoil anything. I'm just saying, the show seems one way, but it ends up taking so many different directions. It's crazy. Like, it's a comedy show, and it's very, very, very funny, but there's a lot of other elements. Like, there's like dramatic elements, and there's like romantic elements. So it's like a very well-rounded show, and I feel like anyone would enjoy it. So, The Good Place. It's on Netflix. I am not sure if the last season is on Netflix, but if it's not, it will be soon because it came out a while ago. But yeah, next show is Good Trouble. Now, Good Trouble holds a very, very special place in my heart just because it's a spin-off of the show The Fosters. I don't know if you've watched it. I'm not really going to get into The Fosters because that's a whole different show. But it follows these two characters from that show, which are Callie and Mariana, who are sisters, and they have just graduated college and they moved to LA to like start their life there, and then they got jobs there and whatever. So obviously they're college students and they can't afford to live in LA that well. They end up going to this shared space that one of Mariana's friends in Los Angeles tells her about, and it's called the Cordery. It's basically like a dorm. Like, that's how they live. So they have like this big living room and this big kitchen, and then the bathrooms are, it's like a communal bathroom, and yeah, they all just have their like individual rooms. They live there, and then they have to like balance life with these like strangers, and they end up building relationships with them, but they also end up like having like tension with them. And then the other people living in the Cordery also have their respective storylines, but like in the interest of time, I'm not going to get much into that. But let's get back to Callie and Mariana. So Mariana is working in the computer science world, and she's trying to get around in this very like male dominated and kind of like sexist workspace, and she's trying very hard to overcome that and like be the like boss person she is, because in the Foster she was this very passionate, like hardworking person. She didn't let anything stop her. Now being in this space where like her creativity and like her room to grow is being stunted, it like takes a toll on her. And then there's Callie, who is very, very for like doing social justice. So she decided to become a lawyer. She's clerking for this judge, and she's trying to have an influence on him because he's like a conservative judge, and she wants to push for more liberal policies through him. Like, that's both of their storylines. And then all the other characters have their own storylines, which are also like pretty detailed. Please watch it. It's a very good show. You will not be disappointed. Sorry, I forgot to mention, this show is actually the only show that isn't on Netflix. It's actually on Hulu. So if you don't have Hulu, I am sorry. You can get Hulu with your Spotify, like if you're a student and college student, so you can do that. Or honestly, just like look for other means to watch it. if you know what I'm saying. Next show is actually not a show, it's a season from a show, but since it's an anthology series, the seasons don't really like have to do with one another, so like if you watch one season, you don't have to watch another one and like etc. So I'm just gonna recommend one season of the show because that's the only season I've watched. The show is called American Crime Story. It's by the same people that created American Horror Story, hence the name. The specific season I'm gonna be talking about is the Assassination of Gianni Versace, which starts Darren Criss as Andrew Cunanan, which is the guy that went on a 5 people killing spree and ended up killing Gianni Versace, which was a famous designer, if you didn't know who Gianni Versace was. But yeah, there's not much to explain. It's a 9-episode show. It just follows the story of Andrew Cunanan and like what led to him murdering all these people and hence murdering one of the most famous people in the world at the time. It's very interesting. And even though it's the assassination of Gianni Versace, it actually is much more than that because we get to see how this man killed these other people. And it's very interesting. It's very crazy. And I don't know, this guy is very like good at what he does, so it's very eerie just to like see how he gets away with things to a certain point. But yeah, that's that. It's on Netflix. Pretty good show. I was gonna say season because that's what it actually is, but it doesn't make sense. It's just like it's a show in itself because it's a show. Anyways, American Crime Story: The Assassination of Gianni Versace. Highly recommend. Let's move on to movie recommendations. Okay, so the first movie I'm going to talk about is called Truth or Dare. It's from 2018 because there's a lot of movies called Truth or Dare, so I feel like I have to specify. It stars Lucy Hale and Tyler Posey, which I very much enjoyed. It's a horror film, but it's like a different type of horror, and I'm going to explain that later. But I want to say this show isn't on any streaming platform, so 1, 2, 3 movies. So the movie is about this group of college seniors that go on spring break in Mexico, and they end up making friends with this stranger, and this stranger takes them to this like abandoned church, which I don't know why you would go to an abandoned church with a stranger, but that's besides the point. They start playing Truth or Dare. It's a normal game of Truth or Dare, but at the end, the guy gets all weird, the guy that brought them there, and he's like, I'm sorry, I had to bring you guys here, because whatever, I had to get more people to play the game, and obviously these other kids are confused, because they're like, what the f are you talking about? It's Truth or Dare. So then Lucy Hale's character, Olivia, she goes to the guy and she's like, what the f are you talking about? And then he's like, the game, it's real. Tell the truth or you die. Do the dare or you die. And she's obviously like, hey, this guy's weird. And then they all go home and like weird things start happening. So basically what happens in this show, it's basically all in the people's heads. So like what the person would see in their head is like people around them saying truth or dare and like having this weird ass CGI face, which I honestly could have done without. Like the movie would have been like so much better if they didn't do the CGI faces. But other than that, it was good. But like they would just like be possessed, but like only in the person's head. So then the possessed person would say truth or dare, and then the person had to pick, and then they had to say said truth or do said dare, or they would die. And so that's basically what the whole show revolves around, just like them playing the game of truth or dare in real life and actually having to do the truths and the dares, or else they would like not make it out alive. And then they're like on this journey trying to find out how they're going to get out of this. And it's actually a pretty interesting movie. I had watched the trailer when it came out, and I was very put off just because it seemed very corny. Like the faces, it was just the faces that they were just like so unnecessary in my opinion. But if you get past that, it's actually a pretty good movie. It has a bunch of negative reviews which I shouldn't like sell it like that, but honestly do not pay attention to the reviews. I feel like it's a good movie. Like it was actually pretty enjoyable to watch. And the reason I said this movie is a different type of horror movie is because it isn't that much jump scares. Like obviously there's jump scares, but it's more horrifying in the sense that like when these like the truths or the dares that these people get, like it's very psychological. Like it's psychological horror rather than that like scary gory horror that we often get in horror movies, which is fine, but I'm just saying this is not what this movie is. Yeah, I underestimated it, enjoyed it. Find a way to watch it. It's not on Netflix, it's not on Hulu. You can buy it for $15, but just like, you know how to watch movies that are on streaming services. I don't have to tell you. So the next movie on this list is called Babel, or I don't know what it's called, but this is the name. It's from 2005, and I actually watched this movie in a film class, and I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't think it was gonna be what it was, but I was very, very happy about it. So it basically follows these 4 different storylines, but they're all connected in a way, and they all happen like out of sync, but you could like infer what's going to happen because of like the past storyline because they're all connected. It's very weird. It like just makes you think. As I said, it follows 4 parallel storylines. So one is about these 2 parents. I forgot their names, but the dad is Brad Pitt, and they're on a trip in Morocco. And out of the blue, the wife gets shot, and so they call the babysitter. That's the second storyline. And then he tells the babysitter, "Yo, can you look at the kids for a few more days? My wife got shot and we're not able to like go back or whatever. And we can't get another person to take care of them at the moment." So she was supposed to go to her son's wedding in Mexico. So what she ends up doing is that she takes the kids that she's babysitting across the border to Mexico. And then we get the third storyline, which is the storyline of these 2 Moroccan kids who are playing with this gun and end up shooting a tourist. Now, you can make that connection. And then there's the 4th storyline, which is this Japanese storyline, and it ends up being about a gun, which honestly, the 4th storyline confused me a bit, so take that as you will. Like, I feel like it could have been connected much more effectively, but I feel like the other 3 storylines work really well together. And the movie all around is very unsettling and anxiety provoking because all 3 storylines have like their own going on. Like obviously they're all connected and like stem from the same plot, and they're all just like very, very, very intense. So it just like keeps you like very anxious and like waiting for something to happen the whole time. It's crazy. So yeah, highly recommend that one. And then the last movie on this list is on Hulu. It's called Dismissed. It's from 2017, starring Dylan Sprouse, who plays this psychopathic perfectionist student who does literally anything to get good grades. That's basically it. That's the plot. He does anything for good grades, and he's very, very serious about academics, and he does not like when anything gets in the way of his learning experience or anything that hurts his GPA. It's very crazy. He's obviously a psychopath, so it's just not like, oh, perfectionist. It's much more darker than that, and it was very interesting seeing Dylan Sprouse play this character because obviously I know him from Disney Channel, and I was just like, what is going on? It was a very crazy. He played a very good character. It was very good acting. So this movie, when I saw it, was on Netflix, but now it's on Hulu now. So if you have Hulu, go watch it. If you don't, you know what to do. But yeah, highly recommend that movie. So that's basically my entire list of TV shows / movie recommendations. I hope out of this list you found something that you will watch, and if you didn't, I am sorry. But I hope you did. Let me know in the comments below if you liked any of these recommendations. And also let me know any of like your TV show or movie recommendations, because God knows I also need them. But yeah, if you liked any of these recommendations, make sure to like this video and subscribe for videos every Monday and Thursday. But yeah, see you in the next video. Bye.